living, like a lot like catfish. Now, I don't know. It seems possible that there could be eels in there because most eels, they stay, I think, at the bottom, but, eventually they come up to the surface. And if you was to witness one of those, because they wouldn't be something you'd see all the time, you would think, what is that, a giant snake or a sea monster or what? You wouldn't know. It would be startling.
It would be. And then in the UK here a week ago, the British big cats, you know what they are?
What are they?
Well, they're huge, almost like the size of a lion, supposedly. And, well, they like eating people. And there was one reported in Great Britain a week ago.
Wow, I'll tell you what, that's something. Those reports have been coming out of the UK for a long time. And a lot of them's big black cats sometimes. But I've seen some videos of some of those, and they're pretty good size. I see one about, 8 years ago or so, somebody had one. And it actually looked like a male lion running across the field. That's what this one looked like. But yeah, they're dangerous. That's for sure. And there's been a lot more reports of them amped up. I wonder if they haven't been there all along, but with civilization and development and stuff, if they're not getting moved kind of out, and we're seeing them more.
Well, don't forget, the Romans were very prevalent in the UK. Back at the Roman times, who knows? Maybe they brought some lions there and they lived in the forest and kind of changed during time.
Yeah, you know what? They would kind of evolve to the environment. What's that?
I said, yes, they would. And over a period of time of 1,000, 2,000 years, and maybe cross, breeding with other animals out there.
That's very much could be a factor, and that's very plausible theory, actually, because you're right. They would bring all kind of exotic things with them wherever they went. And England's not that far. It's just across the channel from where they were. So, yeah, I could see that happening, absolutely. And, speaking of big cats, Michigan has had 43 sightings of cougars. Now, these, what cougars are? Mountain lions. Now, they're not even native to the state, but they've got 43 sightings of them, some of them on trail cams. And so that's something to think about for hunters for going out there. Beware of the cougars in Michigan.
Well, we sure have cougars in our state, along with mountain lions. Again, now this is in Singapore, 2.5 weeks ago, a report of monkey man. Now, these are kind of like a humanoid, but they like eating other creatures like humans if they can get a hold of one.
Wow, that's in Singapore. It's funny. I've never heard that report before about Monkey Man in Singapore. I've heard of different things similar to Bigfoot in the Orient, different places, but I've never heard tell of that one. That's a new one. But speaking of these monkey creatures, there's been monkey creatures terrorizing Texas. Matter of fact, there was a lady who, she heard a noise at about 2 a.m., looked out the window, and there was this evil-looking monkey. They call it devil monkeys down there in Texas, and it was looking right at her, and it scared her to death, and she shut the blinds and went and hid under the covers. I was thinking of you when she said that in the article. But anyway, it says beware they call them devil monkeys down in Texas, I guess. So that's kind of similar maybe to what you're talking about there in Singapore.
Yeah, it could be. But, in China, what they're doing now, which, a lot of countries are protesting, China is taking monkeys and adding DNA to their brain of humans and trying to create a cross species between monkey, seriously, and human.
Oh, boy. I cringe whenever I hear people playing God, these scientists playing God with biological things, especially when it concerns humans, because it's just, there's just so much that could go wrong. I mean, what's the end goal here? Are they trying to make slaves? Are they trying to make
China makes slaves? Isn't that what most of China does?
I am telling you, that's just scary.
I would never want to get in trouble in China. If you were a Chinese citizen, okay, and you go to prison, and if you don't die in prison working on one of their slave camps, making purses or whatever that we sell here in our country, I don't want to sound so negative, but that's the way it is. And what's really bad is if you are sentenced to death, which they sentence a lot of people in death in China, their motive of death is putting the gun up to your head and pulling the trigger because they don't want to damage any body parts, organs, because they take those organs and they sell them all over the world.
Wow, you're talking that's brutal there now. So pretty much if you go to jail for even jaywalking or something silly, just to give an example, but you're pretty much going to end up dying there because, well, let's face it, what you're saying is pretty much a organ factory going on.
Oh yeah,
and if that's
yeah,
and there's big money in that, huge.
Yeah, that's it's a good source of income, and the reason why I know about like there's slave camps years ago, and I'm not going to mention when I managed those 3 camera stores for a period of time when I was out of radio. One of my good sales reps who repped a major company that made like leather vest for photographers. Leather camera bags and all this stuff. I asked him one day, I said, I get a lot of complaints when, people buy like your vest or one of your camera bags. If it gets damp, it kind of smells a little bit like urine. And he kind of like went red for a second. He goes, yeah, I've been at the factory where they make them. And he said one of the ways they tan leather, the cheapest way, is with urine. And I said, you're kidding. So how do they get the urine? They encourage their employees to urinate in a special whatever, okay? That the urine then is therefore used for tanning.
Oh boy, I just lost my appetite for belts and anything.
Yeah, belts too. Yes. And have you ever had a cheap leather belt you bought? The cheap one, right? It's not the one they put leather on it so thin on cardboard and they do get away with it and say 100% leather. Well, there is leather on it, but the other part is cardboard. But have you ever noticed when they get damp on some of them, they smell kind of funny?
Yeah, now you're making me have flashbacks of all the cheap belts I've had that smelled funny. You daggone guy, you. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. The last belt I had, it was said 100% leather. It was one of those it was binded like round, and the little string like bind come falling off. And there's cardboard in between.
Oh yeah,
smelled like urine.
Yeah, but it's true. Could you imagine here? They go probably, hey, here's a glass of water. Here's a glass of water. Here's a glass of water. If they could keep tanning. I didn't even know that. I thought he was joking. So I went and Googled it afterwards and found out, yes, that's the old way how they used to, 1,000 years ago. That's how they used to tan leather.
Gee, man. Let's think of it. It's very cheap and very efficient. Got to give them A for efficiency, but that's just, it's still just wrong. I don't
know. Could you imagine you're a photographer and you're doing a wedding? And it started sprinkling outside, so you all come in for the reception, and everybody's like walking away from you like about 20 steps, and you're not realizing you're smelling like you peed yourself.
Yeah, because when you add water to that, it like activates it.
Yes, it does.
So then you really smell it. Oh boy.
Well, see, you learned something from me tonight.
I sure did. I learned that I'm going to be very, very aware of where I buy my belts and what kind of belts I buy from now on. Gee.
Well, the Ozark Black Howler, I can't pronounce it. This is one of the words there. If I say it, I'll start stuttering. Howler. Howler.
Yeah, the Ozark Howler. Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Okay, well, they eat flesh. And one was reported in Arkansas here just a couple of days ago. But they're normally found in Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, in the United States. Yeah.
There's been a lot of reports of them in those 4 surrounding states that you just mentioned. It's I don't know if it's a type of Bigfoot or what it is. I think it is. I think it's just more of an aggressive type Bigfoot that it likes flesh, like you say, cattle or whatever. Matter of fact, that's where the folk monster area came from, and I'm sure you're familiar with that one.
Oh yeah. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, anyway, that was the legend there. It was stealing cattle and eating people's cattle and livestock and stuff. So it rings true with what you're saying.
Yeah. You got any exciting ones?
Well, I don't know if they're exciting, but they're true, or true reports. But there was a large bat-like cryptid encountered in Barrington, Illinois. And again, that Illinois, I'm telling you, they've got a lot of sightings of Mothman-type things, winged humanoid-type sightings. I don't know what's going on in that Illinois area, but there's definitely something going on there. And this was September 29th when this report came in. And I'm trying to read it here real quick. It just pretty much just says they were driving along and they seen it fly across the road and landed, in front of them. And it's a winged, they described it as a large bat-like cryptid, standing on two legs. Again, I don't know if Mothman, they all kind of fall into that same category, humanoid winged people. I think it's maybe the same thing, just people describe it differently, so to speak. But it kind of makes me think, too, like we've been talking about, with all these earth changes and magnetic changes, maybe it's birds that are in areas that have never been there, big birds like storks and cranes and things like that.
Possible. Now,
I think is. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I didn't mean to walk over you.
No, that's fine. I definitely think it's possible. I've seen stuff here. Let me put it like this, Gary. I've seen a couple cranes here within the last couple months that I've never seen here before, and they were big.
Well, I think that it's the earth changes that's going on. I mean, they're moving. Plus, the magnetic field is changing. So, they use that magnetic field, to guide themselves. So they're ending up in places they've never been before. Normally where I'm at, I get blue jays. This year, I didn't see a blue jay at all. It was weird.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I haven't seen blue jays here all year. And another bird I haven't seen this year, and it's our state bird, and that's a cardinal. We usually see cardinals all the time. I haven't seen one cardinal this year at all. And that is weird.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, who knows where the Blue Jays or your Cardinal are going, but maybe they're just going to a different state and your next state over or something, because again the magnetic field is drifting farther and farther away. So who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be really scary when all these birds start just dropping from the sky, like Alfred Hitchcock. The birds.
That's true, and a couple of years ago there were thousands and thousands of blackbirds that just fell to their death in Alabama one night, and they don't know the reason why. They think it was maybe something to do with the magnetic changes or something like that. But you imagine they woke up and there's thousands of blackbirds littered the landscape all around. And that same kind of event happened also in Texas not too long ago, too, a couple months ago.
Yeah, I remember that. And then they actually open up the intestines of these birds, and they had no food in their stomach. They very weird that they had nothing in their intestines. They starved to death and all just dropped.
Yeah. A matter of fact, there was so many of them that a meteorologist on the radar, they thought it was some kind of anomaly or a weird event on the radar or some kind of error or something going wrong, but it was that's how many blackbirds there were flying at one time. They actually showed up on the radar as like one big black cloud. And then, they all died. They just fell to their death.
Yeah. It's because of Earth's changes. But you know what? It's all fake news. Nothing like this is happening.
Yeah. I got one more quick one here. There's a tall red-eyed cryptid encountered in Richmond, Illinois again. Father and son driving along on a back road. When they came upon, what they saw was a very tall, 6 to 7 foot, hunched over, looking with the brightest red eyes we've ever seen. It looked as if it were floating or hopping. We couldn't make out much as it was very dark. But again, it kind of goes with the Mothman myth. But could you imagine being in the middle of nowhere and seeing something like that on the road and it looks up at you and it's got them big black or red eyes glowing at you?
I would be scared. You know what? I mean, anything with glowing eyes would scare me. And again, there's been so many sightings lately in the news not just UFOs, but of cryptids. And hopefully
Yeah.
Tobias